It's Gerard Whateley. Thanks for listening to the podcast. In this episode, we pondered the agitation inside Hawthorn's coaching succession plan. Justin Leppich manned the magnets. And Sam Edmund revealed the new plans being drawn up for future AFL crowds in Melbourne. New Australian ODI captain Alex Carey joined me from the West Indies. Ahead of the Tokyo Olympics, rower Cam Girdleston and softballer Chelsea Falcon. And we crossed the divide between Melbourne and Sydney with Andrew Voss. You can get in touch at any time. Whateley@sen.com.au. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Good morning. Here's what we know. Alistair Clarkson wants to continue coaching Hawthorn. Jeff Kennett wants Sam Mitchell to coach Hawthorn. These are two statements of fact, and they are mutually exclusive. A succession plan only exists to facilitate the change that Hawthorn desires. It wasn't a carefully orchestrated concept months in the planning with the elder statesman ready to usher the apprentice into the job. It was a shotgun arrangement with only the briefest conversation between Clarkson and Mitchell before it was publicly announced. I remember standing with Mick Malthouse before his final Anzac Day as coach, and he said to me in an interview as clear as day, "I've lost my job." Kennett can bluster all he likes about what he's concocted, but it doesn't take a great deal of insight to know Clarkson feels precisely the same way. He's losing his job. This manoeuvre owes far more to politics and power than it does to football. That was clear on the day that it was announced, and it's become clearer with every day since. And holding back change, marking time for a year in football, well, that's typically disastrous. In consecutive weeks, we have had detailed reports from Tom Morris and Caroline Wilson about the misgivings within Hawthorn over how this will play out. In both instances, it's been made plain that Hawthorn would prefer Clarkson not continue as coach and let the fresh start begin.
I'm told that during that meeting it became clear that Sam Mitchell would rather have clean air to have a fresh start next year without Alistair Clarkson by his side. When this meeting took place, I think Alistair sort of went along with this, according to some sources at the Hawthorn Football Club. Justin Reeves, I should say, I put all of this to the Hawthorn CEO today, and he denies that there is any friction between Sam Mitchell and Alistair Clarkson apart from the obvious. He says that we're happy with the way things are going. They're working well together. To be honest, they're actually working together better than we expected.
So that was Caroline Wilson on Footy Classified last night. If Alistair Clarkson declared round 23 was his final game as coach, it would be a huge relief to the Hawks. And that's hardly the foundation stone for a succession plan. On the magnets with Justin Leppich to get us started. Justin Leppich, welcome.
Good morning, Gerard.
Do any of the tensions around the Hawthorn succession plan surprise you?
Well, no. It's always going to be an interesting mix. I mean, every football club is filled with personalities and egos. So it always happens. There's always tensions within players. There's always tensions within staff. We don't tend to see that, but coaching staff fight all the time. It happened at Richmond and we won 3 out of 4 flags. So don't act like it's not normal, because it is normal. So there always is tensions within football clubs. So this to say this could cause tension would not surprise me one bit, because it's quite public in its nature. Anything that's internal can be controlled. Anything external like this now is very difficult. Can you see it working? I know you've had a couple of weeks to chat about this. We haven't chatted about it together. Can you see a handover working? It's going to be a challenge, I would have thought. It's almost like a divorced couple that still live together in a lot of ways. What are the kids going to be like? You know, will they sense something? Either way, at worst, it's going to be awkward. And that's about it. At best, it's going to be awkward. And at worst, it can be something even worse. So that's probably where it's going to be. But hey, they might be able to do it, which is awesome, which would surprise everyone, and work through it. A lot of people probably cynically think it's not going to work, given the fact it's going to be a difficult challenge for both of them.
If you were Sam Mitchell, do you think you'd want to get on with it?
Yeah, I could see that. I think Sam needs to realise the best thing for him is to have probably Clarko for another 12 months. And if it's not Clarko, a senior figure. Because we all, and I was the same when I first started at the Lions, you just want it, you want your team, you want it to get going. But sometimes having that buffer there for you, at worst, it's going to buy Sam some more time. We once that clock's ticking, Sam, you're done. So, and sometimes, you look at David Teague, it's just time that catches up with you. You might only be 2 years in, 2.5 years in, and then people start thinking that's enough time. Some people get a little bit more time given their history and who they are, but either way, what's wrong with, particularly in a developing team, having a guy there that's going to do a little bit more development for you? He should look at it like that, as opposed to I just want my own team stubbornly. Yep. If that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely it does. What if you're Clarkson? Are you hurt by this?
Oh yeah, I mean if everyone would think you're the best coach of the modern game that has watched the game, and the only person that doesn't are those in your own football club. In essence, so of course you'd feel that way.
Best case scenario.
Best case scenario is that Clarko knocks back all the offers now because that commits him to next year. I think that sort of puts that on the agenda. And then whatever happens after the end of next year, because as we always know, there's always another job out there the following year or potentially the year after. The footy cycle moves pretty quick. I think there might have been 1 year about 4 years ago where there was no coaching positions, but it's very rare. And what's the worst case scenario? Then he might have another year off, and that's not going to hurt him either. So that would be the best thing, I think. I think that'd even be the best thing for Sam. But will it work? That's going to be the big question.
So much to chew over, Leper, with the way things are at the moment. Let's start with the lead up to the Sydney Derby. What were you thinking? Could you put yourself in anyone's shoes there?
I was thinking, what is happening right now? Because I'm just like most of us about to watch the game, and then, it just flashes on the screen. 4 players, was it 4? Out for. I was like, what is going on right now? And I'm a big NFL follower, and it just really flashed back to watching the NFL season last year for me, where they had a similar thing. Where just all of a sudden certain groups of players would be out that had certain attachments because they decided to keep the season going. But there was one particular game where the Denver Broncos lost their whole quarterback division. Now, anyone that knows NFL at all, well, you've got to actually throw the ball to score. So imagine basically losing your whole midfield. I don't know. You just literally, you're just basically destined to lose that game. So it's quite funny to watch. They got their backup wide receiver to come in. Hendel Hilton, his name was. And just he played a little bit of college ball as a quarterback, and he's playing in the main game. It was quite, so you think that's pretty embarrassing, but we might be forced in situations like this.
Is there any level of compromise that's too far in your mind?
Probably not. Not that we're so close to the end. As long as we're past, like it's publicly, we're doing all the right things and we're not breaking the rules. That's fine. And that's why I thought maybe hubbing everyone for the last month in one of those environments like Perth or Brisbane, wherever it is that doesn't seem to have as bigger recurrence of COVID like we do in Melbourne. We can't tend to get it under control here for whatever reason. We think we're okay, then 2 weeks later it's not. So we've kind of proven that we can't actually get on top of it. So I just thought the AFL might consider potentially doing an Adelaide Perth hub maybe just for the last month, and then let Melbourne and Sydney settle a little bit. But I know that's difficult for people down here, but at least that gets the season underway and gives us a fresh run at finals.
Yeah, so the last 4 rounds, so get through this weekend and then round everybody up.
Round everyone up and just say, look, at least we know we can play our games out. Like, at least tick that box, and we're going to get crowds because, we're environments that can have crowds, so good monetary-wise for the competition. The worst thing is for the crowds in Melbourne, but we haven't got crowds in Melbourne. So what risk are you taking? The only risk you're taking is the last couple of rounds of the season that might have crowds. But if that happens, maybe then you can release the hub a little bit in the last couple of weeks and change it. But yeah, it's I don't know. I'm a bit worried about the nature at the moment. The things we're asking to do for our players, they're rocking up the games and then some can't play, or you get in a plane and we're going to get in a plane one day. I'm going to end up in a different state. I can just see it happening soon. The way this is going. And
for the Swans, so they absorb all of that. They get through, and you could plainly see in John Longmire and Don Pike in particular, just the surge of emotion that was in that. So what's that worth to them, do you think?
Well, footy's about ticking the boxes on the way through, and some are as simple as, not as simple as, but game styling and confidence in your teammate and ability to play at games. And then there's playing through adversity and knowing not just you're a good team on paper and week to week, but when things go against you, and that was a classic sign for Sydney. But look, in fairness, the Giants had their share of adversity too with players. Yep. You're missing Toby Green. I mean, he may have been the difference in the end. He may not have been, but so both teams had a little bit of adversity. But they're missing the whole medical team. I don't know, a bit like the quarterback, who takes over the warm up now? You've got the same guy that always. I want to know who did it. I want to know who was the guy. So I'll take that. I think I know what he does. Are you on the phone to him and saying, okay, what do I do now? Do I do leg swings or what's next?
Yep.
Yep. I'd love to see how that would have played out. But they're the little distractions. That's what I love. The vision of the Swans players before the game, where it was like them embracing the moment. And I know that particular point in time, they're embracing the new players that were coming in and their opportunity they were getting. But if you can continue that with, okay, no PRA today. Okay, that's fine. Just water today. If any little thing that you usually have in your schedule is not there and you overcome it and still realise I don't need it and I can still perform, that's a great sign.
So rejoice in the sheer absurdity of it.
Yes, exactly that.
So if the best I can garner at the moment is Sydney's entire high performance unit is in isolation. They have links to the Wallabies through living in Sydney and connections that have been formed over years. They were all there. How difficult would it be to prepare for the next game with the proper lead-up without any of your high-performance team on duty?
Oh, I bet you Andrew Demetrio's looking at this one hoping, geez, I hope they perform really well, because he didn't like the Fizz editors, did he?
No,
he wasn't
he
a big fan at all. So I think anything you can get away with for a very short period of time, but not long periods of time. So you can, because you've still got some residual habits and things, and you know what's there. So they'll still have the support network of that fitness department, but they won't be hands on. But after a period of time, they will require those. So maybe a week or two you can get away with it, but that's it. You'll need them back on deck and driving that part of it, because again, you're asking to put more work again onto another group of people that might be now assistant coaches. It could even be I'm not sure if the club doctor was even a part of that group, but it'll be someone else, or a trainer that's not really qualified for something like that will have to step in and take over some of that.
The Melbourne debate, which is raging at the moment, good against the living, not so much against the dead. Where do you sit in missing points against the lower ranked teams while proving themselves over and over against the top?
I'm probably in the half full bracket. I'd rather where they are than what Port Adelaide are. They continually can't win against the top teams. I'd rather win against the top teams and have a couple of bad days against the bottom. That's if you gave me a preference. Obviously, you want to be clinical if you're a top team. Clinical just means you just win those games, whether it be by 4 goals or not. You just win them. So that's perfect world type stuff. But I'd rather take this current scenario, and even to a point where I'm not saying the 4 points isn't going to kill Melbourne. It's not really. It's not going to kill them at the end of the day. In fact, the 2 points, given their percentage, they had the worst percentage of that group anyway, so that's not going to affect them from a win-loss perspective. But it's more of the psyche of it. Just be good, against the bottom teams, and just do the job, yeah. And you don't want to just really let the bottom drop out against the bottom teams, but it's not the worst of the problems.
So when you analyse Melbourne, so that there's the spectrum of they expect it to happen against the poor teams. I'm not a big subscriber there because they haven't achieved anything yet. They're not entitled to consider themselves a top team, as it were, or whether it's strategically how teams challenge them, maybe in slightly different ways to what they get. Where are you in that sliding scale? What's the cause? What's the source of it?
Oh, it kind of just shows no team, even the great teams in any one particular year, is perfect. And can have every part of it. And this is Melbourne's thing for this year. I remember one year at the Lions, I think we lost 4 or 5 games maybe for the year, and they're all by under a goal or 10 points. Lee just kept getting us, why do you keep losing all the close ones? It's like, well, so it's like, come on, man. Like we lose the close ones because we get within a goal with every game. That's why it's very hard to actually beat us. So if you do beat us, you're probably only going to just get over the line. But it kept getting asked. Yep. So this is probably Melbourne's thing. But again, it's not going to kill them, I don't think, at the end of the season, because it's not going to matter. But it is something that they've got to address. They
play the Bulldogs. That's their second look at the Bulldogs. Both times it's been top of the table. This is late season clashes against the teams that are going to determine your fate on qualifying final night, preliminary final night, or grand final day. Is there what's in a game like this?
I'm so looking forward to this contest. And for Melbourne, it's obviously the complete opposite to what they've faced the last week. And I think the Doggies are going to be a little bit better place this time than last. So I'm really because what happened, obviously Melbourne won the structural battle last time and got on top, but I'm interested to see what the Doggies do a little bit differently this time. They're a little bit different. Jamara's there. They've got a few little different magnets they've got to play. So again, but it is just another piece of evidence. That's all it is. There's nothing more to be done with that because you still get the opportunity with whoever wins and loses to go, right, okay, I've learned a little bit more. We'll see you again later down the track.
How much do you allow the opposition to learn? So do you play every club in the bag in a game like this?
Yeah, I think as a playing group, they'll be full out. They'll be trying to win every time. As a coaching group, no, I think you do. I think because every time you learn, because if Melbourne went out there and played, Melbourne will probably go out there and play the same way. Doggies are the ones that might try something different because they might need to, just subtly, some very small things. And if they win doing that, then Melbourne walk away going, oh, okay, I see what you did. Where now the Doggies going next time going, gee, that worked, let's do that again.
Yep.
Then Melbourne might try something a little different to counteract that. So the beauty is no matter whoever wins and loses out of this, it's just more evidence going into the next game.
Do you recall any of these games late in Richmond's season? So last year there was a late season game against Geelong. In 17 there was. It was actually down at Geelong at the time. Do any of those stick in your mind as going, okay, we what we saw there, that'll come in handy on a bigger occasion?
Yeah, the beauty is with Damien, it happened, I think it even happened in 2017, and Lee used to be a very good coach on the rebound. So there was a game against Collingwood in a final in 2003. We played them first final, lost, got beaten up, and then came back and ended up beating them in a grand final. But that was happening in Richmond in 2017, and I sort of said to Dim, something similar was happening, whereas we were beating them the second time round. And he used the phrase, and it gave the players confidence in the coaching group to know we don't get beaten a second time against this mob. So we learn from it. We go to school, and that's our process, and that make the players believe in the process even more. So Richmond have been excellent at that. So it's just whether those players can actually, and the coaching group can learn from that, and then they can implement it.
Is it useful to be winning games at a key moment when notionally you are being assessed?
No, I think it does. Look, probably one of the things our group has struggled with is the frustration. We've played some good footy against quality teams earlier in the year and didn't get the results. So that was the frustration bit that it probably mounts, and our fans feel that, and we understand that. But the last few weeks we've started to play a little bit better. So to get those results, to get the 4 points, and to show that we are on the right track, and there's a lot of belief within the playing group, within the staff, within the way we're going about things, I think gives us a lot of confidence moving forward.
David Teague with us on AFL 360 last night. Justin Lepich, you've kept the Carlton portfolio pretty well the whole year on the Magnets. What have you deduced in recent weeks?
Well, the interesting, and it was great just listening to David then, and he was right. They were playing some good footy and getting close in a big patch where they were losing. But the one standout for me is the defensive side of their game, and I think they identified that as well. But that's the only thing that's improved the last month. Their offensive scores have come down as well by about a goal a game, but their defensive stuff is off the charts, comparative. So if you compare rounds 1 to 14, 92 points against, and this is just scores against. So we're not breaking it down hugely in parts of the grain and stoppages and turnovers and all those sorts of things. So just points against 92 in the first 14 rounds, and the last month 67. That's a massive swing when you just talk about it as simply as that. And it's, as I said, they're down a goal a game back the other way. So it does, if you just keep the opposition low, if they keep keeping the opposition to around that 67-point average, it just gives them an opportunity to have a bad offensive day and still win. You can have a great offensive day. That's when you win by 40 points.
Yep.
And you win and you fill your bag, and we all have a bit of fun. And McKay kicks 10 and he runs around and does the whirlwinds to the crowd. But it's built off the back of the 67 points. You've kept the opposition. So that's a great sign for them. They're going to face bigger challenges going forward, I think, and that'll test that defensive side of their game. But I think they're at least coming from a great starting point to be able to, make some offensive errors and not cost them on the scoreboard.
Is that an impressive change to make within a season?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And for me, their numbers behind the ball is evident. And it's so if you look at just the scoring chart, as in if you go in against Carlton and the ability to score against them, they've gone up from 39% down to 31%. So let's say it's around 9%-ish. So that's that on average 1 every 10, let's say, is another one you don't score every time you go inside 50. That's about 5 a game. 5 shots a game. You're just not giving them by being a little bit harder to score against when it goes in. So all those little things, and I see mids getting behind the ball, and it's harder at ground level to get snap goals and things against them. So they've put some things in place that are better. So David Teague and his coaching group need to be congratulated on the changes.
So I was going to ask, so does that play well for David in a time where he is being assessed, and that was seen as the great deficiency heading towards the middle of the year, that he has identified and to a degree rectified and probably set in place a system that will serve them well over the next period?
Yeah, I think so. And I think Carlton, I guess the people that are doing the review need to realise whether it's sustainable, or is it just because it's some of the games they've played have been against lower opposition. So is it going to be? It's a watch until we play some better opposition, and does it stack up in time? So I guess the challenge with all these reviews is that the coaches in the coaching box know more than what the people are that are reviewing them. That is the great challenge. They're the ones that sit there and analyse this to death, and they're explaining themselves to probably part-timers outside. And so that can come with a level of frustration too when you're the scientist and you got to report a little bit to those outside. So, but either way, that's their situation. That's what David has to deal with. But so people will just see the basic part of it. The defensive numbers are good. They seem to be applying what he's putting in place, and the results are good. So that's only a good sign for him.
The Lions side of things. So you were right with the Magnets. Fullerton came in.
Yep.
These things are never rectified in 1 week when you have to make systematic adjustment. This was what struck me on Friday night. Are you worried about the Lions?
There's with Lions, the best way to describe them, they're a risk management team. About 4 years ago, they were really, with their ball movement, they were really adventurous, and they got scored against a lot off the back of turnover, and they become almost the same side of the ground team, very skinny side ground of the. So they don't handball in their back half. They're the number 18 team in the competition from handballing in the back half. It's all kicking, so it's either kicking by foot or kicking long down the line to a contest, because they're a great contest team. Brisbane, for me, if you look at them, and I think of the next phase for them, because I think what that has served them really well in the last 3 years to get them up to this part of the ladder. But they're like an old Sunday roast, so they're really reliable. So and most of the time it's really good, but there's a little bit more sophistication now for them to go to the next level, I think, and bringing some of that handball overlap part of the game, I think, is going to be really crucial to them, because you've got a really great pillar in Harris Andrews down there, and you've probably got the biggest weapon in the game in Daniel Rich. So those two things they've got. But the worry for me is, apart from that, they're all pretty vanilla around those plays. They don't have any players that can run and carry, bounce the footy. Like you look at Richmond's ends, they bring Daniel Rioli in for a change, and you see Mansell come in, who can run and carry the ball as well, and Sydney Stack. Sydney, what change did they make? They brought Nick Blakey back there, the ability to run, carry, break a line. And when you break those lines, you give the forwards a really good opportunity, because Brisbane have some fantastic forwards. So I just think they need a little bit more. I don't know what they need to put in that gravy to make it a little bit more tasty, that Sunday roast, but they've got to do something, just add a little bit more flavour to it. I think they've done a great job just playing good, hard, consistent footy to get themselves to a top four, but getting from 4 to 1 is another challenge again, and I think they just need to go do a little bit of work and add a bit more spice to what they're doing.
So are they in premiership contention in your mind?
Well, they can, because you can adapt on the run.
Yep.
A little bit, and particularly offensively you can, because you can just move a couple of magnets, add some run and half back, and change a few things around, and then you can get a completely different look. But I think because they've got such a potent forward line, I think they're a chance, and they've got so many different types of talent in their forward line, but you need to give them more opportunities, and they've got to see a lot of different ball coming in, not just the longer, higher ball. They've got to see something different coming in every now and again.
And did you see enough in Joe Danaher to think that he can carry that forward line?
Well, I think he's proven he can.
Yep.
It's just going to be a few weeks to get used to life after Hipwood and see what that is, and that puts more pressure on guys like Dan McStay and others down there as well.
Leper, the De Goey magnet.
Yes.
One of the great debates in footy.
Yeah, I really like this one. First thing I'm going to talk about is what we want to get to probably at the end of this is, what is Jordan De Goey and where would you use him if you had his magnet? That's probably the big thing. And we'll go to the two Carlton games this year and compare the pair of the two. And if you were David Teague right now, which De Goey would you rather have? So there's the one on the weekend where he had 31 disposals. 19 of those were in the back half. He had 5 inside 50s, and he had 1 disposal in the forward 50, which is a mark and a behind, 1 shot on goal. Okay, he only had the 1 clearance as a full-time mid, had 2 tackles in that part of the ground. If you fast forward back to the round 2 game where he had 16 disposals. He only had 3 of those in the back half. He had 2 inside 50s, but he had 11 disposals in the forward 50 for 5 marks and 4 goals, 13 score involvements. What de Goey do you have, Jared, and which one do you not want to play against?
So I don't want to play against the de Goey up front.
Yeah.
4 goals, 3 is going to hurt me more than the accumulation of possessions. So in the model you've run there, is he a truly damaging midfielder or is he an accumulator?
Of his possessions on the weekend, 6 of those were contested, 25 uncontested. So he was an accumulator. His numbers on the weekend look a lot like if you had Basher Hooley had a great game or Brandon Ellis had a great game, someone of that ilk. If you compare even, let's go back to Matty Kennedy, who played in the same game on the weekend. He had 26 disposals as a full-time mid. He played a bit less game time, so on average it's about the same disposals. He had 6 clearances, 7 tackles. He had similar metres gained and fantasy points and all those things. But his breakdown was 12 contested and 14 uncontested. So when you look at it like that, that looks like a bit more of a hardened midfield type number. Yep. I think if you're just going to plonk a mid in there and go, good, he's got good balance of clearances, hard ball gets, loose ball gets, all that sort of thing. The other interesting one is when you talk about, well, what do we want to see out of Jordan de Goey? Because we've talked about him as the match winner, so to speak. A bit like, Dustin Martin's the ultimate match winner because he can be the accumulator and the match winner. So that's when you've struck gold. That's when you're paying the big bucks for somebody because he can do both. Jake Stringer's the other one that we're talking about out of contract. We're like, okay, what is Jake Stringer? Well, he is a match winner. Look at his game just from the weekend, and it looks a little similar to the round 2 game with de Goey. He had 16 disposals, 9 of them were contested, 7 uncontested. Yeah, he had 5 clearances, which 4 of them were bursting out of that centre clearance. So he's using those strengths, those match-winning strengths, not just to score goals, but in the clearance. And in the second half of the game, he kicks 4 goals to win his team the game when they were struggling. Yep. So that's what a match winner does, is they win a match. So for me, it's like, what is Jordan de Goey then? Are you paying for an accumulator? Are you paying for a match winner? Or is he a combination of the lot? That's the question that we pose, and what would you rather use him as? Because at the moment he is, and his averages the last month are very similar to what happened on the weekend, the very similar type game in the last 3 or 4, which is fine. You can pay Jordan de Goey to do that. But where is he dangerous, and what would you use him for?
So can someone else do that role? But there aren't many who can do the centre forwards damage that he can do. Is there an equation in there?
Well, he's got weapons. So it's how much you want to use his. I think running around getting kicks isn't a weapon. Well, I shouldn't say that because I couldn't be able to do it when I played. There's no way. I didn't have the fitness or the run to do it. But you probably talk about if you're going to the draft or you're putting a dollar figure on someone you're going to pay to be a runner and be an accumulator, it's not as big a price as a match winner. So it's really how you want to use those magnets and how you want to utilise them for your list management. So that's what the big question's about. And these are the great things coaches discuss in the background too, and list managers discuss and all those sorts of things. But it was just such an interesting one for me because, of course, he played well. He had a terrific game. He'll probably get Brownlow votes. So it's not about that, but it's more about how you utilise such a talent.
So in the stints you had at Richmond, as you might have missed, the bridging years might have been the ones where you weren't there. What was the discussion around Martin like and how to deploy him? And it seemed to sort itself out in 17 where he barely got a possession in the defensive half of the ground and he turned in one of the great seasons of any player.
That's right. And it probably did. And it probably Trent Cotchin the same, to be honest. They determined that, well, those 5 or 6 handballs around the back he gets, what's the point? Just take 5 or 6. Let's have 19 possession average instead of 25, and we just get ourselves into trouble with those 5 around the back. So let's just not do it. And Dustin was the opposite. He learned how to become more potent. And as a club, they learned that you take him up to stoppage, he loses his opponent, he can get a possession around the clearance, and then he can get a possession on the way through, either kicking a goal or giving it to someone. So Dustin found the perfect role for him in the perfect team. And I think that's what this discussion's about, is what is the perfect way to use de Goey? Because we've seen him, the 2 ways I've seen him is probably this sort of player, the run around guy, back half, and kick and run and looks dynamic, but not really killing you. Or the guy that comes out of the square almost. Is there a spot in the middle that can suit? So I just wonder whether they've even still found the perfect spot for him. As good a player he is, Is there another way? And I think Jake Stringer got used perfectly on the weekend for that match winner role. There's going to be days that Jake isn't going to do that for you, and maybe that those 4 goals in the second half aren't going to be there, but at least you've got that up your sleeve to use.
How much they're in interim management at the moment. So it'll be up to the next coach, whether that be the current interim or somebody else. How much of it is a discussion strategically and how much of it involves Jordan? How much is the coaching staff's role to say, no, we understand you'd like to get 30. That's not you. That's not how we want to use you. What's the buy-in of the player worth here?
Oh, the player has to buy in, because even if you look at Jordan's numbers throughout the whole season, there's games where he has single digits, so he's probably sitting there going, and you think about the way we've sort of talked about Collingwood's game styling under Bucks and how the forwards felt a little starved at times. So Jordan Ago is probably loving this freedom now, getting upfield, getting a lot of the ball, thinking, I'm not getting starved as a forward. So there's probably a part of it where he's enjoying this part of it and getting some ball and feeling a part of it. But that's terrific. But in the long term, is it going to be the best thing for the particular team? So I think there's a happy medium in there, but that he has to, of course, buy into, because it's the most important thing.
And last one, so we did crunch time, and then you would have been heading home when the Dustin Martin news dropped. How did that land with you?
Oh, geez. I mean, you've already called their time of death, Jared, but after that I thought, well, even if they do get there by some miracle, they've lost the guy now that actually used to take him from just turning up there to winning those games, because he was the difference in the match winner in the big game. So to win a grand final now without Dustin, I've now almost taken that off the table. I'm not saying they're not going to get there, but then you're saying, well, can they really even get to a prelim now? So every week, the sort of the level in which the Tigers can get to, with unfortunately through injury, really it just comes off the table, and the amount of wins they've had. So you've got those two equations: the amount of wins you got, and now players coming back in that can make you better. That ledge is obviously now tipping them, and it's got nothing to do with their list management, coaching, game style, all those sorts of things. We know it's just one of those years. You go, oh well, let's get ready for next year.
Rotten luck plays a big role.
Absolutely.
Lepo, great chat.
Thanks, Jared.
On the Magnets with Justin Lepich on a Tuesday. If we're still in lockdown, I'll see you Saturday.
Yes, we will.
Because you might never coach school footy again.
That could be done.
Victoria in lockdown. We wait to find out how long that limbo is going to last and then what it would mean out the other side. So sporting crowds are a sharp conversation right now. There was a portion of yesterday's State Government Health Authority press conference with Brett Sutton, the Chief Health Officer in this state, where he was asked directly what the hopes of returning substantial crowds, potentially to 85%, were this AFL season.
I really don't know. We have to assess it. We're going through a process of what other risk mitigations can be implemented, the kind of engineering or infrastructural or organisational changes that can help manage that. But there's no question it looks more challenging than it has previously. Well, it might be harder subzones, more entry points, more staggered entry into those arenas. Who knows what else we can or should look at pre-event testing with rapid antigen tests, vaccination status of individuals. That I've always said that needs to be a national consideration. We shouldn't be going out alone on that, but all of those things should be in play, I think. And the Delta variant shows that transmission within stadia absolutely occurs. We think that there's been outdoor transmission, probably at the MCG and at AAMI. I mean, AAMI's outdoor seating. We don't know if it's at seating. We've got individuals who were not seated together. There's no evidence that they've attended a food venue together either. We think it's a pinch point going into the stadium outdoors.
Brett Sutton, that felt ominous. The community transmission at the MCG and at AAMI Park was a game changer. So on the numbers that have been released so far, half a dozen from the MCC and 3 from AAMI Park. Is this landed heavily? I know that behind the scenes, and Sam Edmund, our chief sports reporter here at SEN, has been following it up. Contact Coach Nick and you may just change your business forever. Sam, hello.
Morning, Jared. You're right. Game change is the word, or the final frontier in a way, isn't it? The transmission in open stadia, as it were, when prior to this, we had, I think, a formula or a step-by-step process. While frustratingly slow, we could all understand. 25%, 50%, 85% was actually signed off on. This changes everything, and the stadiums are going to work on what a new plan might look like.
And what would that look like?
Well, who knows where we go from here. And look, at the moment, they're overhauling their COVID-safe plans. So the AFL and the Victorian government, this is a really delicate task, as you heard from the chief health officers there, in terms of reintroducing crowds to games as the season goes on in our little corner of the world in football. So The Melbourne Cricket Club, on behalf of the MCG, my understanding is they're already working on a new COVID plan for spectators at the footy. Now, I've spoken to a couple of people who have confirmed new entry parameters could include any or all of these. No food or drink on sale inside stadiums at all.
At all.
At all. So no pinch point, as Brett Sutton calls it there, where people come together in a group, in a gathering that's just so hard to police around food and beverage at the football. Masks to be worn at all times, so while seated, during the game. Staggered entry times, which has been discussed a bit this year and last to avoid queuing. Again, those pinch points, and we saw the photos outside Gate 7 at Amy Park that really did jar with the health authorities there, and a bigger spread of seating. And I know this is one when you turn on the television and you watch the events at GMHBO Stadium, you think, all right, they've got 8,000 people there. Why are they all seated together? So clearly a bigger spread of seating. They can do that. And they will do that if it gets to that in terms of spreading out where people sit, because clearly with the Delta strain airborne, the outbreak airborne, a greater spacing between seatings is just a no-brainer.
So there's a few unanswerables which we'll just ponder because they are open questions that might dictate our next couple of months. Could we see a point, as has happened internationally, where to attend a major sporting event you would need proof of vaccination and or a COVID test in the days leading up, which came back negative? Yeah,
so fans who attended Euro 2020 matches at Wembley were required to do that, to show either their vaccine passport or proof of a negative test in the 24 to 48 hours prior to gain entry. But at this stage here, there's nothing to suggest such measures will be put in place. And we know we have a vaccine shortage here, and our rates of vaccinations percentage-wise are so low. So at this stage, that's not been discussed. You would think maybe proof of a negative test would be something that's come in. It was put in place if you wanted to go to the snow prior to when the lockdown was lifted last time, that you had to have a negative test to get up to the snowfields here in Victoria. So that hasn't been discussed at this point. And then you get to 5 weeks to go in the season, finals, Jared. Where does the grand final sit at this point? Because it was looking so optimistic.
So the steps along the way are, when will the next sporting crowd in Melbourne be? How small will it be as a starting point? And then in the previous, so the pattern is, and there's no opinion in this, the pattern is quick to lock down, slow to open. Yeah. And that was I gave voice to this, the source of frustration behind the scenes from sporting organisations, from government. The health authorities will absolutely claim to have been vindicated in the next outbreak. So the community spread we've seen at sporting events weren't related to the previous, where we were only staggering our way towards 40,000. They are in the new wave. And if you overlay that timeline, which you would expect to be even more conservative now that there's proof of transmission at sporting events, it is hard to imagine getting to we were only at 75% with the 40,000 cap. It is hard to imagine getting beyond that. Actually, it's hard to imagine getting back to that in enough time.
Yeah, so speaking to people this morning in terms of a timeline that you raised the question around is, okay, lockdown goes until Sunday, next Wednesday, perhaps all things going well, then there's another week of no crowds, and then possibly we can start slowly teasing attendances back. But as you say, it is going to be so slow and so ultra-conservative. I mean, it is said that a crowd of 60,000 is the benchmark for the MCG to have a grand final. So a contract in place there, obviously, until 2058 now. It's a year longer or whatever it is, given the Gabba hosted the 2020 grand final. But 60,000 is seen to be the benchmark contractually that would keep the game at the MCG. That's speaking to people on the government side of things, the MCC side of things, but 60,000 even sounds so enormously ambitious. And I know 5 weeks might as well be 5 months in the COVID world, but it is so hard to get your head around that at the moment anyway.
It'll be those conversations happening behind the scenes at the moment, and there'll be a moment where we all have to face up to is something between a third and 2/3 at the MCG truly preferable to a full house in Perth or Adelaide?
Potentially. And the Victoria major events landscape's just under siege. Absolutely under siege. I mean, early this month we had the Formula One Grand Prix cancelled again. MotoGP cancelled again. They cited the slow vaccine rollout and then obviously the federal government's decision to halve that cap on international arrivals. The Australian Open has to be under major renewed threat to have its tournament in January as well. So do the government want to lose another grand final? And how aligned are they with the health authorities who clearly sign off on these things, Jared?
And then there's the community attitude. So it felt like we just got to the weekend where people went back to the footy. Two healthy 25,000 plus crowds at Marvel. We got 30,000 at the MCG, then 20,000 for the Wallabies on that Tuesday night. Felt like a breakthrough moment. And then bang, exposure site. And so many of you have been sending through messages. It's cost you 14 days and a massive disruptor to life. So even if we are invited back to the footy
What's
in
the
the
appetite?
next, say, round 20, I think 20 is optimistic, but 21 or 22, can you take the chance?
What's the appetite when you go there? Exactly. And we know that that I think all but 4 clubs are currently living under protocols at the moment in the AFL, but clearly the message to the players is do not put yourself in an environment where you're at risk.
Aaron Finch is injured and thus Australia needs a new ODI captain. That man is Alex Carey. I suspect this is a portend of things to come. He will lead Australia tomorrow as the fresh series begins against the West Indies. So let's head to Barbados now. Alex Carey, welcome to SEN.
Thanks, Jared. Thank you.
Australian captain, how does that sit with you?
Yeah, I've got a big smile on my face just thinking about that title. But obviously, firstly, never good news to have your skipper not be able to play through injury. So we're, firstly hoping he can return around pretty quickly and get back into this team. We know how much he offers to this team on and off the park. So to Finchy, we hope he recovers really quickly. And then, to the captaincy, I'm extremely, proud to have that title. Really excited for the opportunity. And now we're into one-day cricket. We want to bounce back pretty quickly from the T20s where we played some good cricket. Didn't get the result, but really excited to get out there tomorrow.
Who told you? Is there any sort of ceremony that goes? So I have an idea in my mind what the naming of Australian captain should look like. What's the reality?
I did a lap yesterday with JL,
Yep.
And he passed on the news. Firstly, that Finchy probably wasn't going to get up for the first game, and then secondly, that I was going to be named captain if he wasn't to come up. So, firstly, it was great excitement to be able to be recognised to lead Australia, which sounds pretty cool. But also the opportunity for us as a group to fill his boots. We recognise there's 17 ODI hundreds that aren't going to come out in the park with us tomorrow. So there's going to be some great opportunity for some younger players, some senior players, and in between. So, it's going to be great walking out there tomorrow.
Who did you share the news with first? Who was your first phone call or text?
Not too many people were awake back home.
Yes,
just the time difference. So had to hold on to it for a few hours. But spoke to my family. My wife, she's a great support. I'm lucky enough to have a really close family back in Adelaide. So to share it with them, extremely excited. And then with some close mates around the team as well. So, it was a great moment.
And how was it announced to the team?
We've caught up through our line groups today, batting, bowling and fielding. So firstly, it was, notified to the group that Finchy wasn't going to be playing in this game. And then I was the stand-in captain. So, some really nice messages from the boys already. And, really excited to lead this group come tomorrow.
Has Aaron had a word with you yet?
Yeah, a brief one. We've got training this afternoon as well, so we'll finalise what our team actually looks like. I'll sit down with Finchy and have a good chat to him. I think the great thing is as well, there is still a lot of experience coming out in the park with me. So the likes of Moses Enriques, whoever we go with, Matthew Wade, Dan Christian. There's lots of games of cricket under their belt. So I'm not going to be left alone out there.
Does it give you a moment to think back over your journey, your aspirations as a kid, and here you are about to lead Australia?
I think when the head hit the pillow last night, it was pretty exciting to be recognised with this title. It is just a title, and there's still a lot to do to lead these guys. Because I guess for me, it's nothing really changes. I want to win just as much. I want to help the group just as much. But it's pretty exciting to have that title. I think looking back at it through that journey, it's, from being let go from footy and coming back into cricket and some ups and downs. I don't want to think too far in the past or too far forward with the job in hand, but it's a pretty cool journey to be on so far. And to share that with the family last night, they were very excited.
And your idea of leadership, Alex, in the roles that you've held so far, what will you draw on from the leadership roles that you've had as you take it to an Australian team?
Yeah, I think being really connected with the group, we are connected as a group over here at the moment. Being in a bubble, we are really tight. So the relationships are already there. The experience and knowing what my players can do is already there, and the trust is there. So just having the ability to continue to read the game of cricket as it unfolds, being prepared with what the West Indian cricket team will throw at us. We know that their T20 stuff is really solid, and this is a different format now. So it's exciting to start the series 0-0 and really pumped to, I guess, turn around what we learnt in those T20s and bring that out in the park. Like I said, tomorrow it's a new series. I'm really excited to line up against these guys over here in their home country.
It's not just looking at the squad, it's not the easiest 50 over side to scribble down on paper. What will your role be? Where will you bat and will you keep?
Yeah, I don't think my role will change at all. I'll be through the middle and have the gloves. As we mentioned, Finchy won't be with us tomorrow, so there is some opportunity up the top of the order. We know the likes of Zampa, Stark, Hazelwood, how well they perform in this format. There will be some new faces, I'm sure, just through the opportunities coming to hand. So I'm excited to make their day really exciting. For me, my role won't change a lot.
What an interesting time for the Guild of Wicket Keepers. Both Australian captains wear the gloves.
That's the other thing is, we've seen Painey do it so well for Australia, and I guess that gives me great confidence. How well he's done it. Like I said, there is so much support out there for me. We've had Josh Hazelwood, Mitchell Marsh, vice captains of Australia. Matthew Wade's led the team in T20 cricket. Moses Enrique's experience. The list goes on. So, although I've got the gloves and batting through the middle, my role won't change too much.
So obviously touring at this time in international history is a curiosity. How have you found the change of scenery? So what is it, St Lucia to Bridgetown? Does it make any difference, the geographical change with the tight confines?
Oh, I think it's nice to move on from St Lucia. We had a great stay there, although the results in terms of cricket didn't go our way. We were really well looked after. So far, being in the bubble, we're a really close group of guys, and now moving to Bridgetown and training at some new facilities, it just gives it a little freshen up. Starting a new series, lots of little things. I guess you look to draw upon for that. Freshen up, I guess, is the word. Although we're locked in our rooms pretty much. Yeah, it is nice to move from hotel to a new one. So. Yeah, very exciting. The boys are really keen to get out there tonight and run around under lights in Barbados.
How tight are the confines? Is it literally just hotel to ground and back?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is. That's pretty much it. So we do spend a lot of time with each other and talking and playing some games and, just really connected. So although at times it might get a little bit boring, I guess, is probably the right word. When you sit there and there's not much happening, there is also lots of time to really dig a little bit deeper into other players and build stronger relationships. What's your game of choice in a little bit of downtime? I'm not really much of a gamer. I've got the Sudoku book out there. There's a few PlayStations floating around. Haven't seen any cards. There's a table tennis table. So there's enough to do. And Netflix obviously probably plays a big role. So I just was having a quick look. You haven't played a 50-over game since December 2, and this is a sign of the times as well.
Do you feel a bit, is there a level of rust that goes with just not having played consistent international cricket?
Look, I don't think so, and we'll find out that tomorrow. But I feel like the 50 overs after the T20 series it's exciting because we've come off a little bit of time off into trying to blast the ball around the park. Now we can settle back into a tempo, which I think will really suit a lot of our players. We've got time to build innings. We understand the game of 50 over cricket, so the rush or the want to get on with it isn't quite there. So I think it's really exciting to now move into one-day cricket where we can enjoy some time out in the middle. We can, get plans really well prepared and for our bowlers, not have to worry about either getting a handful of wickets in a short amount of time or going for a lot of runs. It's exciting to piece the puzzle together. And
it plays a role as one of the clever things that's happened is linking series to a point system for a World Cup. So there is, it doesn't exist in isolation. Does that sort of help that there's a grander cause for what's about to take place?
Look, every time we play, I guess it's about winning that match and winning that series. And we've played some fantastic one-day cricket in the past, probably 12 months. We've beaten England over in their conditions. We've had India come to Australia and we've beat them. So it's not looking too much into the point system of it all and what it means. It's going to be a great opportunity for some younger players to do well. It's going to be hopefully a great opportunity for us to win a series and share that with some young faces who haven't been a part of a winning series yet.
What level of analysis was there in the aftermath of the T20, Alex?
Yeah, we do sit down and go through, I guess, each match as it comes. Obviously, we were in the first game really well and we let that one slip. So I guess going into that last game, it would have been nice and probably we were in a position to beat 2-2. Unfortunately, we didn't set it up in that first game and we gave them a sniff, and we know how dominant the West Indies can be when they do get in front. So it's about, acknowledging where we went wrong and hopefully now with the longer format, tweaking those and really putting the foot down tomorrow in our first game and I guess setting it up in the first 10 overs if it's with bat and ball.
When all there is cricket on a tour like this, does it magnify the sense of what was won or what was lost in the days between games?
Yeah, it's always the challenge of sport is reflecting, learning, and then I guess critiquing where we can improve our games. Being in a bubble, we do have opportunities to talk to other guys. You sit down, you have a coffee, you pick apart what's happened and then where do we learn from it. So I think although you don't really escape the cricket sense too much, it also allows us to learn a lot quicker and actually ask questions and speak to fellow teammates who are out there in the park going through what we went through. So although it's nice to get out and get your head out of the game of cricket, it is also really beneficial to sit down, have a coffee and pick each other's brains.
And your form can you tell anything about your form when you come out of 3 pretty short innings in T20?
I guess not sure about the form, but my mindset's really strong. I feel really confident in my ability to go out there tomorrow and help Australia win a game of cricket. I guess the lead up's a little bit different. There's a great opportunity for me to prepare really well and make sure our bowlers, batters are really well connected going into this first game. And we've been through our line meetings, got our plans against the West Indies. It's now about executing. And I'm no different, I guess, with the bat.
How do you reckon you'll sleep the night before you lead the nation?
I reckon I'll be pretty good. We've got training tonight. So I'll run out some energy there and get around the boys. So, there's lots of excitement to go into this game with, like I said, they're potential new faces, some opportunities for some players to come back into the team. And for me to lead the group there's lots of smiles on the boys' faces around the group.
Alex, it's a great moment to share with you. Enjoy it. I'm thrilled for you. Congratulations.
Thanks, Jared. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Alex Carey, Australian captain, who'll be the 26th man to lead the one-day international team. So in the 50-over format, it's just a fraction slow to make it for the Giants. Not a bad fallback, is it? A cricket career that takes you all the way to captaincy. And I do feel like this is the portend of things to come. I think he'll succeed Aaron Finch as the white ball captain once he's got leadership written all over him. I must admit, he had me at, I've got the Sudoku book out there. That screams captaincy, doesn't it? So the Olympics is upon us. Competition actually starts tomorrow night, the opening ceremony on Friday, and then into it. So we live vicariously through our athletes now in Tokyo, given that we're all removed from it. We'll watch from a distance. He's in the midst of a training session. I'm indebted to Cameron Girdlestone, who's an Olympic silver medalist in rowing in his final preparations for competition. Cameron, it's great to have you on SEN. Thanks for taking the call.
Morning, Jared. Thanks very much for having me.
How's the morning on the water in Tokyo?
Oh, absolutely perfect out here in Tokyo. It's sun's out, it's warm, it's humid, but no, we're all here on the ground and safe, and feeling like we're acclimatising well and adjusting to the water and the traffic. But no, everyone's in good spirits and excited to be here.
What's your experiences been in the days since you arrived, Cam?
Look, Jerry, we had a charter flight from Cairns on last weekend on Saturday with the swimmers, which was a really eventful and fun flight over. And then we had a bit of a process going through the airport with COVID testing, accreditation, waiting for results. But whilst through the whole time, feeling very safe, very well looked after, and then processed through the village and more sort of checkpoints, more assessments, and then into the Australian headquarters in our tower and welcomed by all the supporting staff. And I think we got to bed on Sunday morning, roughly about 3:30, but a long trip, but we're now here on the ground and with all the other sports, which is awesome, and to hear their journeys as well. But no, the Olympic spirit is definitely flying high in the village, and can't do it without all the support staff from the AOC and the docs and everyone looking after us. And I must say, like, as an athlete here in the middle of the sort of pandemic, I feel very safe and very well looked after from all our staff.
So you've had a long time to think about it, and I imagine there are probably moments of doubt or how daunting it might be. So does it feel like the Olympics now that you're there?
Oh, absolutely, Jared. It's the Olympic spirit is definitely alive, and it's been a long time coming. As we all know, it was postponed last year, and the goalposts shifted slightly to the side, but we've all kept our mind and our motivation keyed on to Tokyo, and it's fantastic to be here. And as I said, the spirit of the Olympics is definitely flying high, and within the Olympic Tower, it's everyone's sort of getting excited to wear the green and gold and get racing and get competing.
There are limitations. Will you march in the opening ceremony, or will you be watching from the village?
We'll be watching from the village, Jared. Rowing is one of the first events. So I'm in the men's triple scull, and we start Friday on the 23rd. So rowing's the first couple of days. So just to make sure that we're here focusing on our performance, we'll be watching the opening ceremony from the Australian headquarters tower.
When you're a couple of days out from something you've planned so long for, Cam, are there nerves associated with it? How eager are you? How would you describe your sort of demeanour as you get close to it?
Yeah, I think definitely as you sort of start to get closer to racing, as we got the heats on Friday, we haven't raced internationally for 2 years. 2019 was the last time majority of the team have raced anyone internationally. So we're here with that sort of hanging over our heads, but we're not letting that get to us. We're trusting in our process and trusting in the boat and trusting in those around us and our teammates and our crewmates, and knowing that the process is going to get you through what gets thrown at you. It's the Olympic Games. Everything gets thrown at you. Things go wrong, but it's the crews that win the gold medals, the ones that handle it the best and understand that things are going to happen and not overreacting, just taking in the information and processing it and then coming out the other side with good, thoughtful decisions. So that's what we're thinking about. What we can control is the process and our mindset, and letting all the white noise and the distractions around us just come in and keeping ourselves grounded in our boat and our process, which is moving the boat as quickly as we can, the way that we've been training it for over the last 4 months.
Is it possible to have a view of the competition as to how it's all come together with no international racing, as you point out, or is there a little bit of the unknown about all of this?
Look, there's been some international regattas that have happened over in Europe this year. The World Cups have we're seeing our competition race, and we've had a sort of a look and sort of see what boats are doing and different parts of the race and how they race and their profiles. But at the end of the day, that's just information. No one's got hands-on medals here. Everyone has an equal opportunity when they sit on the start line to put their bow ball in front. So we've got an absolute opportunity just like everyone else, and that's what we're thinking about. We can't let the other stuff that's happened get in the way of where we want to go, and where we want to go is put our bow ball in front in the heat, qualify through to the final, and then deliver a performance that we want to do in the final.
The team that you'll row with, Cam, so because of the delay in the games, so is it right that the team who qualified the boat, you're the only surviving member of that, and Caleb Antle, Luke Lecture and Jack Cleary, are they new teammates for you?
Yeah, they are. I've rowed with Caleb internationally in 2019. We're in the quad together for a World Cup, but Caleb and Luke, proud Canberrians, have rowed in under 23s in 2016, and they've won an under 23 World Championships together. So they bring that idea of how to win gold medals. And Jack Cleary, he's first time Olympian, likewise with Luke and Caleb. But no, we're very close, and we're definitely really sort of got each other's back, and we've really formed some really strong bonds over the last couple of months, because at the end of the day, it's really important to get to know each other in our sport, because we spend so much time with each other, and you want to really have that trust and respect for each other and what they bring to the boat. And likewise for the rest of the Australian Olympic team, but the rowing team in particular. We're a strong bond of there's crews, individual crews, but there's also a strong bond within all of us, and we want to show the world that, because we are a force to be reckoned with, the Aussie rowing team.
So a silver medal in Rio, I guess it gives you a lot of time to prepare and plan and dream. How fiercely does it burn with you, Cam, right now to see if you can go one better in Tokyo?
Yeah, look, Jared, it's sort of, to be honest with you, hasn't sort of, I guess, don't really sort of let that sort of come into my mindset, really. Yep. For me, it's about process. I always come back to process. You don't really want to think about the outcome, because that'll hinder what you want to do to get there. It's all about the journey and the process and the trust in that, because at the end of the day, you don't come to the Olympics to create magic. You come to the Olympics to do what you've done in training and to fall back on your training, because that's what's going to put you in the middle of the dais. No magic's created at the Olympics. It's those that trust in what they've done for the lead up are the ones that stand in the middle of the podium, and that's what I'm thinking about with my crew, is the process and trusting in that and really having confidence in our rowing.
Yeah.
We're not here to do something we've never done before. We're going here to trust our process.
I can feel the determination coming down the phone, Cam. It's inspiring. Hey, good luck. Thanks for sharing that with us. We'll all be watching from Friday, so go well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jared. And to all the listeners, just a big thank you from an athlete's perspective over here. We can feel the spirit all the way down there in Australia, and just want to say a big sincere thank you for all those that are going to be tuning into the rowing and all the wider sports. We really sincerely thank it, and we can feel that spirit over here in the Australian Tower.
Brilliant. Cameron Girdlestone, who's with us. He's on the water this morning training for the quad scull, the men's quad scull, where he'll be competing, an Olympic silver medalist previously, and determines to give the best account for Australia when the moment comes. This time tomorrow, Olympic competition will be underway. Australia's softballers have the honour of being the lead-off. They will be playing Japan. I think we're on the team bus here. Chelsea Falcon is a member of the Australian Olympic softball team. Chelsea, great to have you on SEN.
Thanks for having me on, Jared. Appreciate it.
Where do we find you?
Yeah, currently on the bus, just finished up our last training session before our big game against Japan tomorrow. In Fukushima.
How exciting is it to be now this close?
Oh, super exciting. We've waited a long time. So tomorrow's a big day, and all the girls are really excited.
How long have you now been over there, Chelsea? It's been a few weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit more than that. We've been over here for just over a month. So, we're well and truly used to all the conditions, and it's really exciting. Just can't wait for tomorrow.
How have you found your time over there?
Really, really good. We've been able to get prepared, practice most days, playing warm-up games against local Japanese teams. So our preparation has been immaculate, to tell you the truth. So we're just super ready.
How restrictive are things for you as you spend probably longer than any other Australian athletes will be required to be in Japan? How have you found that side of things?
We've gotten used to it. So the girls have done an excellent job. We've been able to train and do everything that we've been able to get done to get prepared. So, we've certainly made Japan a home away from home.
How big a deal is this first game against Japan over there, Chelsea? We've just had sort of a little hint as to how big this game might be.
Oh, it's obviously massive. Like I said before, it's been a long time coming. We've been out of the Olympics now for 13 years. So with that said, though, you don't want to make it bigger than it has to be. It's just a game at the end of the day. So we take it one pitch at a time, and, we're certainly ready, though.
Is the Japanese softball team a big deal over there?
Yeah, they're pretty well known. So I'm sure they'll have most of Japan behind them, but we're certainly ready. There's a lot of belief, and I know we can do it. So just really looking forward to getting out there tomorrow and showing everyone what we've been waiting for.
Were there Japanese fans trying to infiltrate your hotel or something like that a couple of nights ago?
Tell you the truth, Joe, I actually didn't hear about that at all. We were told about it the next day, but didn't really know too much about it, to tell you the truth.
It's a funny thing to be somewhat a part of anyway.
Yeah, it certainly was interesting to hear, but no, don't have too much information about it, sorry.
You've played baseball and softball for Australia. Is this the pinnacle of your sporting career, Chelsea?
Yeah, I've played baseball as well as softball, but this is definitely a dream come true, getting to represent Australia at the Olympics in softball. And, a long time coming, and I'm certainly ready and just super excited and can't wait to take the field tomorrow.
What have you been able to measure your prospects against what's coming internationally? This is one of the curiosities of these Olympics, is international competition's been hard to find for a couple of years.
Yeah, we've certainly done a lot of work in the background. We've got a lot of information on our opponents. We've been doing our homework. Even though we haven't been able to play international competition for a while, we've still been able to pick up some footage of the teams we'll be playing. So we've certainly done our homework. We've got our research, so we know what we're up against. But like I said, we've been over here preparing for just over a month, so our preparation has been pretty much amazing. So we're ready to go.
The other Australian Olympians have been arriving over the past few days. Do you expect to have, I know you're out of town and so no one's going to be there, but are you feeling that wave of support for the first Australian team in action?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And we've been getting a lot of messages from home as well. But we certainly know that everyone's behind us, and we just can't wait to get out there tomorrow and know that we've got all that support and just try and make everyone proud.
Will there be a crowd there, Chelsea, being outside Tokyo?
No, there won't be any crowd.
Okay.
It'll just be the two teams going at it tomorrow.
Well, we'll be watching. Chelsea, it's great to touch base. The very best of luck tomorrow, and yes, enjoy it. Whatever this Olympics ends up being, I hope you have a great experience.
Thanks so much, Jared. Appreciate it.
Good on you.
Take care.
Chelsea Forkin there with the Australian Olympic softball team. They've just trained Now heading back to base, and this time tomorrow they'll be in action against Japan. Sometimes it's all fun and games when we reach across the Great Divide, but our cities are both in lockdown, Sydney and Melbourne at the moment. Andrew Voss hosts our breakfast show in Sydney, 1170 SEN. He is one of the great voices of sport in this country. Vossy, how are you holding up?
Oh, well, hi, Jared. You're a little more south of the rugby league than we are in Sydney, at least. I mean, it's all in Queensland. Queensland is the centre of the rugby league universe at the moment. You know how broadcasting works, Jared. You would have an appreciation that perhaps our listeners don't. It was a miracle that all that sport took place. That was broadcast, rather, last weekend.
Yep.
I mean, all the NRL games, the AFL that got transferred at the 11th hour, a rugby union test at Suncorp Stadium on Saturday night, supercars in Townsville all weekend, with no staff allowed to be transferred or, transported from New South Wales or Victoria. Where did they find the techs, the cameramen, the equipment? I have no idea how they must have had mice running around wheels to make it all work. It was a miracle, let me tell you.
Yes, there's a certain miraculous nature to getting all of this away as best we can. So just our corresponding cities, Vossy. I think we have a view in Melbourne that you're running a Clayton's lockdown. That we actually know how to do it. There's the 4 reasons to leave home. I think the joke on the weekend that Gladys had tightened things from 51 reasons to leave home to 47 reasons. Are you doing lockdown properly?
Now, that's a very curly question. Obviously, I haven't experienced on the ground what Melbourne and Victorians went through. I can only look from afar. I would say that there are a lot of mixed messages up here. And I say this absolutely hand on heart, that we had become an apathetic society here in Sydney to it. I mean, there's complacency. And I put my hand up to, you miss out on you don't feel as if you have to queue. I'm only going in here for a minute, so I don't have to QR scan in. But I'm certainly back on the straight and narrow now. Even if I'm going in for 10 seconds, I'm scanning and all those sorts of things. But I don't think we as a society in Sydney adhered to all that we should have. And then when this latest outbreak came up, there was that inter-suburb rivalry. The Northern Beaches were saying, well, we went into complete lockdown at Christmas. Why can't the eastern suburbs, or why can't the southwest of Sydney? And the boundaries of the lockdown now, people on the Central Coast, which is, for those who don't know, listening right now, from the centre of Sydney would take you an hour and a half to drive to. They haven't had a positive case in over a year.
Yep.
Yet they are part of the lockdown. So you can understand they're being a little complacent, because they're thinking, well, hang on a sec, why do we have to we've got these restrictions put on us? So the mixed messaging that's getting out there, I actually live outside the zone. I'm the first region that lives outside Greater Sydney, but everyone around here is still sort of taking things seriously now, so it's shaking things up. It seems to be getting worse before it's getting better, I must say. I mean, we've just been treading water for the last few weeks, to be honest.
So still having significant numbers, and a lot of those in the community, is a bit of a curiosity. Do you have you got a feel how long this is going to last? Are you talking months?
Well, I can only base it on last year, and we, of course, again, we're dealing with different strain of COVID right now with the Delta strain, it appears primarily, but last year when we got to 40 cases, our lockdown was extended by a month, and, at the moment we're still sitting over 100 cases, so you do the maths on when that is. I mean, at the moment we're going on this, July 30. I'm not trying to be a doomsday, but I feel it impossible that we're going to come out of a lockdown on July 30. They added construction work to it. Obviously, all our sporting teams have now moved out. They've, not that the sport should be the priority, but it is in our world, isn't it, Jared, that we talk about sport. But I really can't see. I can't see any community sport being played anytime soon, and I can't see at the elite level any sport coming back to this state. Certainly within the confines of the regular football seasons.
Yeah,
I think that's it for sport for this part of the year.
It's always a great prism. This is where sport is such a sharp prism with which to view, I think, the community scenario, and that's been true in Victoria the whole way through. Hey, so we're on the cusp of an Olympics. It's a really curious. Yeah. Are you an Olympics guy normally?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Don't care if I don't get any sleep. If it's in a different time zone, I'll watch the lot. Suddenly I'm a fan of a sport that I will only watch once every 4 years. Absolutely.
Yeah. What's your view of Tokyo as it hits us on Friday night?
Yeah, well, excited to the point. I must say the recent swimming trials certainly got me excited. If it had been in the shadows, some of the efforts of the Australian women in particular have me excited about the swimming program at the Olympics. I don't know how the athletes do it. Those that will be competing in empty stadiums for the biggest moment of their life, it's a little different to running out for a regular season match of the AFL or the Rugby League in front of no one, or an A-League game or an NBL game. This is the absolute pinnacle of your life. It might be the only Olympics you attend. I can't imagine how they get pumped up. And I'll be very interested. It would have to impact times, wouldn't you think, Jared? I just think that extra 100th of a second might not be achieved because there isn't the crowd urging there. But as for viewer and fan, interest, I've got to say, I mean, I live and breathe sport. People aren't talking about it, are they, Jared? Are people coming up to you and talking about, gee, I'm looking forward to that, can't wait for it to start? Or, there isn't really a buzz, is there? We've got so many other things on our plate.
So it'll be really interesting. Like, if we are in lockdown, that plays perfectly for the Olympic experience. It gives us something to flick on TV and radio from the moment we get up, essentially to the moment we go to bed. And that's where the games experience is at its best. So I think the Boomers beating Team USA was a really big moment last week to go, to light the fire. Hey, this is right there. My hunch is, if our cities are still in lockdown, that come Saturday, and maybe once the first gold medal is won, I reckon this is going to catch on really quickly.
I think that's a very good observation. There will be a flicking of the switch, and to a degree that happened with. It's a big difference between an Olympic Games and a State of Origin, but State of Origin build-up was nothing like previously. Yet people still on the night watched, and then there was more reaction than there was preview, if you know what I mean. Yep. People weren't talking about it before, but once the game played, they obviously tuned in because they're outraged and they're buying into the conversation. So you're right. I think that will happen with the Olympics, and even more so because of lockdown. I mean, I'm sure, again, Netflix and the like are copying an absolute punisher. Battering at the moment, people, on social media. What's a good series to watch? How many times have you seen that question being asked?
Have you got one?
Have I? No, well, I'm too busy.
Yeah.
Still enough on my plate. But the wife's into the Turkish show. She gets up on YouTube. She highly recommends Turkish television. They're sort of soapies. Please don't blame me if but I tune out. But she's suddenly speaking Turkish to me around the dinner table. It's quite incredible.
What a nugget to leave us with, Bossy. Endure, stay well.
That's all we can do. Onwards and upwards.
Andrew Voss across the Great Divide.